Sometimes you believe you clearly know something until someone asks you about it, and you become confused. Then you realize you do not truly know what you know. Welcome to Inner World Podcast, where I, Liam Johnson, accompany you on a journey to explore the inner world. A place where the inner self is better understood, wisdom is awakened, and you are nurtured with a deep and mindful way of living. This is a space for you to pause, reflect, and ask the kind of questions that truly transform you from within. Today's topic is a foundational key for any growth journey. The principle of the knowledge circle, if you truly understand it, it will change how you learn, how you communicate, how you understand yourself and the world around you. In today's podcast, I will guide you through each layer of knowledge from I know that I know to I don't know that I don't know. Not just theory, but real-life examples, communication scenarios, and subtle mistakes we keep repeating simply because we have not identified where we stand on the map of knowledge. You will discover why people easily fall into the trap of speaking from what they know and end up not being understood at all. How to make communication more meaningful by starting from what the other person knows. And most importantly, how you can gradually become more profound in understanding your own life. There is one thing I want you to remember. The most important insight will be revealed at the end of this video. A simple principle that can help you not only understand, but also help others transform, starting today. And if you are someone striving for personal growth, but feel overwhelmed with too much information and too little clarity, then today's podcast, I believe, will be a mental map for you. So what do you really know? And when you ask yourself, what do I really know, you are standing before one of the greatest doors of awareness. You see, the most special thing about knowledge is that it is not what we can hold, but rather the limits we cannot see. That is the first paradox of the growth journey. We do not know that we do not know something, and that very thing creates the invisible wall that keeps us from stepping into broader fields of understanding. In this principle, called the circle of knowledge, there are 4 levels that each of us revolves around at every stage of life. The first level is the simplest I know that I know. We call this the knowledge light zone. For example, you know you can drive a car. You know you can read a book. You know you feel tired. All of these are clear awareness. This is the safe zone of thinking, but it can also easily lead to complacency if you do not go further. The second level is I know something, but I have forgotten. It is like things you learned in the past have forgotten, but they resurface when needed. You once understood, you once lived with it, but now it lies beneath the dust of time. This is what many people possess, a forgotten treasure, and if no one reminds you, or if you do not take time to review it, then that treasure will never be used. The third level is I know that I do not know. This is when you acknowledge a lack. You know you cannot play an instrument. You are not good at public speaking, or you have no knowledge in a certain field. It may sound like a weakness, but in truth, it is the first step toward active humility. When you know you do not know, you begin to learn, and only then does knowledge have space to enter. And finally, the deepest part of awareness, I do not know that I do not know. This is the most frightening part, because you cannot access it through ordinary effort. It is like darkness never touched by light. And the paradox is most of what limits your growth lies in this area. It is vast, immeasurable, but slowly as you learn, as you experience, as you encounter the unknown, this darkness shrinks and your knowledge expands. I only know what I know. It sounds obvious, but if you pause for a moment, you will see that within that statement lies an entire portrait of limitation. It reminds you of your smallness, and also that if you want to grow, you must expand your knowledge beyond its current boundary. At Inner World Podcast. I, Liam Johnson, am not here to deliver knowledge, but to awaken in you this question. Where are you standing on your own map of knowledge? And how can you expand it, not through stressful effort, but through right recognition? Have you ever noticed something interesting? When you talk to someone and share what you know, sometimes they do not understand. Not because they are not smart, but because you are speaking from your knowledge, not starting from theirs. This is a common mistake in all communication, from parenting to teaching, from inspiring to leading. Everyone tries to convey what they know. That is why most conversations fail to connect and become just sessions of misalignment. You want to connect, then start from where the other person is standing, not from where you are. You want someone to change. Help them identify what do I know, then gradually guide them through what do I not know and what do I need to know next. One profoundly important principle I have learned is this. You speak from your knowledge, they will not understand. But if you speak from their knowledge, they will understand. That is the essence of inner education, not teaching, but helping others rediscover themselves. And that applies to yourself, too. When you begin to clearly identify what do I know, you will open the ability to recognize what you once knew, what you forgot, or what you never knew. The circle of knowledge is not just theory, it is a map to unlock understanding in an orderly, purposeful, and effective way. The journey to becoming wise is not a giant leap, but a process of gathering bits of insight, pieces of memory, unanswered questions, to slowly shrink the unknown. And that is the deeper reason why this circle of knowledge principle, simple as it may sound, is a grand doorway for anyone seeking to understand themselves and live a deeper life. In the next section, I will help you understand how your inner energy and information, when aligned properly, can create stability, transformation, and remarkable growth. But right now, just start with one thing. Write down what I know. That is all. And you will see your inner world begin to move. Knowing what you know is the first step. But if you stop there, you have only touched the intellect. Now step into the next level of depth, where knowledge is not just in your head, but begins to shape your life, energy, emotions, and daily behaviors. I want you to imagine this: each person is a field of vibrant energy. No one is the same. Some people walk into a room and you can feel positivity and warmth. Others enter and everything seems to sink. Some give you peace without saying a word, and some leave you drained after just a few minutes. Why is there such a difference? The answer is not on the surface, but within it is the energy that person emits. And the deeper source of that energy is inner information. You see, energy is not some mystical concept. It is the natural result of what you carry in your mind and heart. Repetitive thoughts, the meanings you assign to life, unresolved emotions, all of these create a wave field within you, and that wave is translated into physical expression. The look on your face, the way you walk, the tone in your voice, and most importantly, how you affect others. But here is the key. Human energy is not fixed. It constantly shifts. In the morning, you might feel positive and joyful, but by the afternoon, one phone call or a message can make you feel like a completely different person. Is that true? This happens to all of us because the inner information is constantly shifting. When information shifts, energy shifts, and physical expression becomes unstable. From your mood and attitude to your choices, everything is affected. That is why when you clarify what you know, your energy begins to stabilize. Because when knowledge is clearly established, it does not waver with temporary emotions. You are not easily swayed by others or by someone's words. You live anchored in your own core. Pause for a moment and remember this: when you do not know what you know, you waver. But when you identify what you know, you begin to possess great inner strength. It is silent power, but powerful. It keeps you from drifting with the crowd. It prevents you from reacting hastily. It protects you from being hurt by what is unnecessary. You begin to mature, to gain depth, to carry a quiet influence. That is when knowledge becomes energy. And from there, it condenses into physical expression. In other words, it takes shape in the real world. In the way you speak, in the questions you ask, in how you persuade without trying, in how you attract others without effort. People call it presence, but in truth it is the energy radiating from clearly defined knowledge. And if you want to change something in your life, do not start with behavior. Behavior is just the result. Start by re-clarifying your inner information. What do you believe about yourself? What do you know, and what do you not know? When you answer those questions, you will begin to shift your energy, and then your physical expression will automatically change. And if you are at the stage "I know that I do not know," congratulations, you have entered the most powerful zone of transformation. Because in the space of not knowing, you gain the motivation to explore, and knowledge begins to expand endlessly. Remember, instead of staying in doubt, take a little time to clarify. Doubt does not stabilize energy, but clarity does. When you clarify, you begin to absorb new information, new knowledge, and then your energy rises. You are no longer unstable, you become grounded, and from there your life begins to transform. My friend, in Inner World Podcast, we do not just deliver concepts, we offer you the way to transform from within. Because we believe when you shift your energy from the root, your life will take a new direction in the most sustainable way. In the next part, I will take you into a deeper principle: how to apply the circle of knowledge and personal energy in communication, inspiration, and helping others grow without resistance. A special principle: if you speak from what they know, they will understand. And if you are a parent, a guide, a leader, this will be a part that gives you much to reflect on. When you clarify what you know, your energy becomes stable. And when energy is stable, your physical expression becomes clear. You no longer live in unconscious fluctuation, but begin to have a steady, calm, and persuasive presence. But the next question is then, what? Is stability alone enough? Or is there a deeper voice within you, a silent but powerful desire? I want to become more profound. I want to share something very honestly, something not often said. No one is born wise, and no one becomes wise just by reading or listening a lot. Profound understanding does not come from the quantity of information, but from the ability to clearly define what knowledge you have to know, what you do not yet know, and to intentionally expand it step by step. My friend, the journey to becoming wise can begin right now, in this very moment, if you truly recognize what you already know about human life. Try to pause and write down 3 things. 1. What do I know about relationships? 2. What do I know about my career? 3. What do I know about myself? And you must be honest with these 3 questions, because that is the starting point. When you define what you know, you will start to see what you do not know. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. You shift from being a collector of information to a purposeful learner. You no longer listen just for entertainment. You no longer read out of curiosity. You learn because you clearly know this is what I need to take the next step. And you know what? That is the beginning of profound understanding. Being wise is not about knowing everything. It is about knowing clearly where you are on the map of awareness. Not about reading 100 books, but deeply understanding one idea and living it. You do not need a vast library of knowledge. You need a clear direction. Each day, you only need to gather one more piece of insight, one answer, one new recognition, and connect them together. Piece by piece, like someone placing stones to build a lotus pedestal. And you will gradually become someone who lives with depth. No need to show off, no need to argue, just your presence will be enough for others to want to listen. In a world flooded with information, the one with depth becomes the guide. And I believe that is you if you truly choose to begin this journey. At Inner World Podcast, I, Liam Johnson, do not offer you many tips or quick skills because those are easily forgotten. Instead, I share with you a long path, how to become a little wiser every day from within. Engrave this truth because it is the core of everything the journey of becoming wise does. Not begin with a book, but with one honest question: what do I know, and what do I not yet know? From that question, your energy begins to shift. From that question, every learning journey becomes purposeful. From that question, you no longer learn aimlessly, but learn with direction. And that is why today's content is more important than you may think. It is not just a sharing, it is a map of awakening. And if you truly use it, you will not only understand, you will transform. In the next part, we will explore how to help others transform, not by teaching them, but by guiding them back to what they once knew. An art of applying the circle of knowledge in communication, in connection, in inspiration, especially for those who are parents, leaders, and mentors. And wise is not about speaking better or knowing more than others. True wisdom is about being more humble and more profound in how you connect with others. And here is the paradox I want you to consider. The greatest mistake in communication is not lack of knowledge, but using what you know to impose on others. Most of us make this mistake. We get excited about what we know, so we say it. We believe we understand correctly, so we try to explain. We want to help others, so we share our own experiences. It may sound reasonable, but here is the truth. The person across from you does not feel understood because you are speaking from where you are standing, not from where they are standing. And that is why heartfelt advice becomes off-putting. Valuable knowledge gets rejected, and efforts to inspire go nowhere. So what is the way out? It is when you reverse the approach. Instead of starting from what you know, start from what others know. It sounds simple, but doing this requires subtle observation and humility in perception. When you truly begin from what the other person knows, you can help them remember what they once knew but forgot. Help them identify things they have never stopped to notice, and even touch the realm they don't know that they don't know. That is communication wisdom, a form of insight that does not come from books, but from respect for the innate knowledge of the other person. I want you to pause and reflect. Have you ever tried to say something you thought was correct, but the other reacted negatively? Have you ever poured your heart into persuading someone only to hit a dead end? Have you ever seen someone get so much advice that they no longer want to listen? If you have seen this, then that is the result of using what you know to impose on others, albeit with good intentions, but the wrong approach. On the other hand, have you ever heard someone speak a very simple sentence and you felt deeply understood? Did it feel like they touched something you thought you had forgotten? Did you feel the issue was resolved not because they spoke at length, but because they began from the exact level of knowledge you were at? That is the art of guiding from the other person's knowledge. And you can absolutely learn this. No need to become a communication expert. Just do one thing. Know that you do not know what others know. That is the beginning of true humility. From that point on, you will ask instead of talk. You will observe instead of explain. You will listen instead of jumping to conclusions. And when you do that, the other person will feel seen, respected, accompanied rather than corrected. A great leader is not the one who speaks the best, but the one who starts from the other's knowledge. If you are a parent, ask your child, what is your thought on that? If you are a leader, ask your team, what do you see in making this decision? If you are someone helping another heal, start with what makes you believe that each right question is a key that opens the treasure of knowledge they hold. And only when you journey with them on their own map do they open their hearts to accept the new map you bring. Communication is not an act of transmission, but a journey of co-creating awareness. It is a space where both you and the other expand. See they do not understand, don't rush to teach, start from where they stand, from their knowledge. See them behave incorrectly, don't rush to correct. Help them see themselves. In the next section, we will explore the power of belief, how to leverage another person's belief to expand knowledge, how to avoid discomfort in communication, and how to help someone transform using the belief system they already have. This is a very important part of today's sharing, and I will discuss it in the next section. You know there is one thing, once you understand it, you will no longer feel impatient for someone to change. That is, no one embraces something new if it contradicts the beliefs they already hold. This is the root of nearly all resistance in communication, education, coaching, and even close relationships. And this resistance can result in the exact opposite of what you intended. A person may be intelligent, they may be well educated, but if what you say touches their deeply held belief and contradicts what they have believed for so long, they will resist. Not because they are stubborn, but because they are protecting the foundation of their own perception. So, if you want someone to know, you need to start not with information, not with advice, but with one question. What does this person believe? You see, if you know someone believes that success is luck, you would not use reasoning about effort to persuade them, at least not right away. Or if someone believes they are not worthy, you would not immediately tell them they must love themselves. Because if you do that, they will resist. But if you start from what they believe, and then gently expand from there, then you are co-creating with them. Not inserting knowledge, but guiding knowledge from the root of belief they already have. Take the knowledge they have and speak from that, and they will understand. This saying is the foundation of the art of teaching, healing, and awakening. And if you are a parent, a teacher, a guide, you especially need to grasp this. Because once you know what someone believes, you can use that belief to connect, lead them from their belief to new knowledge. And when new knowledge aligns with old belief, understanding will follow. When they understand, they will gain insight. And once they have insight, transformation becomes inevitable. Do you see? That process does not begin with logic, but with belief. Not with words, but with empathy. Not with the desire to fix someone else, but with the yearning to help them understand themselves. And you can apply this to yourself too. Instead of rushing toward the next bit of information or new skill, ask yourself, what do I believe about life, about people, about myself? Because when you revisit deep inner beliefs, you will understand why you remain limited, why you cannot take something in, why you still hesitate or hold yourself back at some threshold. Remember this. Knowledge cannot reach you if belief does not open first. And you cannot transform someone else if you do not understand the root of their belief. All the deepest knowledge begins where trust already exists. If you place yourself in the right layer of belief, you do not need many words. Just one timely word can open a whole horizon of awareness. Try this out in everyday life. When someone does not understand, you ask, "What are you thinking about this?" When someone reacts negatively, do not judge. Ask, what are they protecting inside? And a child is stubborn, ask, what makes you believe this is the right way? And you may not receive a fully honest answer, but I believe with sincerity and the desire to help you will create space for the other person to open up to you more easily. Once you can do that, you will become someone whose influence comes from calm presence. And you will become someone who helps others change, not through force, but by awakening from within. This journey is the path of the wise one, not just knowing much, but helping others truly understand themselves. In the next part, we will share a core principle. If you want people to transform, start from their desire. And that will be the closing of the journey from knowing to understanding to insight to transformation. You know knowledge only truly matters when it is turned into action at the right time, the right place, with the right person. But have you ever noticed this? The people who live closest to you are often the hardest to communicate with. Why is that? Because you assume you understand them. You think you know them. You believe saying it this way means they understand. But you forget one thing. People change every day, and therefore what they know, what they believe, also changes. So if you keep using old understanding to communicate with the current person, there will be a gap. And if you do not recognize what that person currently knows or believes, there will be resistance. That is why the principle we have explored needs to be applied not in a book, but in every small conversation. For example, when you talk with your child, instead of saying, "Ton, you must not do that. You are rough. Do not understand." Ask like this. What do you know about this? Why do you think we should do it this way? What do you believe is right in this situation? See, just by changing the question, you are no longer the teacher, but a companion. You do not irritate them, but evoke their knowledge and understanding. From there, you lead them from what they know to what they do not know, then to understanding, then to insight, and finally their own self-transformation. Or in a relationship with your partner. Have you ever felt you talk and talk, but they do not understand? Maybe because you speak from your own beliefs, not asking, "What do you believe?" when you do that. Just one well-chosen question opens a door. Because deep inside everyone has reasons for their behavior. And that reason comes from a system of beliefs that if you touch, you can empathize. If you empathize, you do not need to argue. And if you are a leader or manager, instead of criticizing your employee's decision, ask, "What information did you use to make that decision? What do you believe that will bring what makes you think that is the right choice?" When you ask like that, you help them illuminate their inner knowledge. They may notice a gap. They may realize a pattern. Or they may see themselves from a completely new perspective. And do you know what happens? Growth begins. Transformation does not come from teaching, but from guiding. And a good guide begins from what others know, believe, and desire. And you can do this with every person you meet. Just remember, don't speak hastily. Ask first. Don't correct, clarify. Don't observe. And especially do not impose what you know on others. The journey to truly understand someone begins with humility, knowing that you do not know what they know. And the journey of guidance does not begin with words, but with listening. When you apply this, you become the most profound influencer. And that is what I want you to carry with you after this entire series of sharing. From knowledge to energy, from the known to the unknown, from beliefs to transformation. All it begins with a very small question. What do I know? And what does the other person know? Dear friend, we have just explored together a journey from knowledge to energy, from personal knowing to understanding others, from belief systems to inner transformation. And then you realize, if you want someone to know, rely on what they believe. If you want them to understand, start from what they know. If you want them to gain insight, touch the deep doubts inside them. And if you want them to transform, connect with their true desert. This is not just a communication principle. It is the foundation of awakening, education, healing, and every sustainable transformation journey. So instead of insisting on what you know, stop, observe, ask, listen, and help others recognize what they need to know. If you feel these podcast insights resonate with you, if you believe the world gets better, not because someone speaks better, but because each person understands themselves and each other more deeply, and if you want to spread these values to someone, then please consider supporting the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and turning on notifications so you are alerted when new videos arrive. And if you know someone who needs this content, consider sharing this video with them. And finally, if you wish to express anything, leave a comment, not just to connect with me, but to let others know they are not alone on this transformation journey. Because a share at the right moment can save a confused soul. A comment from the right person can become a mirror for hundreds. And someone who understands you is the beginning of a world that understands. I am Liam Johnson. See you in the next Inner World podcast sharing. The transformation journey always begins from within. And today I am grateful to have walked with you for part of the way. Keep going deeper and more genuine. Wishing you a peaceful evening.